Good afternoon, everyone.
Today we are going to report about,
Tale of Two Cities.
the novel. Here's my friend David Aguilar to help me in this novel report. Charles Dickens. You tap.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, the writer of the book was Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens is much loved for his great contribution to classic English literature. He was a quintessential Victorian author. His epic stories, vivid characters, and exhaustive depiction of contemporary life are unforgettable.
Charles Dickens. His own story is one of rags to riches. He was born in Portsmouth on February 7, 1812 to John and Elizabeth Dickens. The good fortune of being sent to school at the age of 9 was short-lived because his father's inspiration for the character of Mr. Micawber and David Copperfield was imprisoned for bad debt. The entire family, apart from Charles, were sent to Marshalsea along with their patriarch, Charles.
So that was his story.
Yes.
He has an awesome story. That's it. Like many others, he began his literary career as a journalist. His own father became a reporter. Charles began with the journals The Mirror of Parliament and The True Sun. Then in 1833, he became parliamentary journalist for the Morning Chronicle. With new contacts in the press, he was able to publish a series of sketches under the pseudonym Boz. In April 1836, he married Catherine Hogarth, the daughter of George Hogarth, who edited Sketches by Boz. Within the same month came the publication of highly successful Pickwick Papers, and from that point on, there was no looking back for Charles Dickens. Novel background, yay!
Novel background. Dickens published his 12th novel, A Tale of Two Cities, in his own literary journal called All the Year Round, in weekly installments from April to November of 1859. He got the germ of the idea for the novel from a play by Wilkie Collins called The Frozen,
That's the movie with Chris Thomas.
in which he played the self-sacrificing hero. Dickens decided to transplant the emotive issue of self-sacrifice onto the time period of the French Revolution, and he modeled Sidney Carton after Collins' hero to ensure that his novel would be as historically accurate as possible. Dickens pored over his friend Thomas Carlyle's classic history of French Revolution.
When Dickens was writing A Tale of Two Cities, the French Revolution was still the most dramatic issue in the public's recent memory. The revolution involved contentious issues for Dickens, a political radical who believed in poor law reform and who campaigned for a more equal society. He vividly portrays the hunger of the French people and the brutality of the French aristocracy, embodied in the novel by the Evermond family, and he seems to justify the lower class's desire for a revolution. Yet he just as dramatically illustrates the barbarity of the revolutionaries when they do rise to power.
Characters.
These are from the silent film from 1980.
Charles Darnley. A French aristocrat by birth, Darnley chooses to live in England because he cannot bear to be associated with the cruel injustices of the French social system.
Yeah, he was also accused of one time. Yes. Sidney Carton. An insolent, indifferent, and alcoholic attorney who works with Schreiber. Well, that was short.
Dr. Manette, Lucy's father and a brilliant physician. Dr. Manette spent 18 years as a prisoner in the Bastille.
For no reason. He was imprisoned there for some reason. Poor guy. Lucy Manette is Dr. Manette's daughter. Yeah. A young French woman who grew up in England, Lucy was raised as a ward of Tellson's Bank because her parents were shooting. I could not find the picture for
Mr. Jarvis, one of the oldest employees of Tellson's Bank, and he frequently deals with the bank's officers in London and Paris. Offices in London and Paris. He is a confirmed bachelor and man of business. He has served the Manette family since Dr. Alexander Manette Manette's imprisonment.
Boom. Monsieur Defarge and Madame Defarge. Boom. Okay. Monsieur Defarge is a wine shop owner and revolutionary in the Port Saint Antoine section of Paris. Monsieur Defarge formerly worked as a servant for Dr. Manette. Yeah, when Dr. Manette was released, he took care of them as well. Madame Defarge, his wife, is a cruel revolutionary whose hatred of the aristocracy fuels her tireless crusade. Madame Defarge spends a good deal of the novel knitting a register of everyone who must die for the revolutionary cause.
Miss Cross, the servant who raised Lucy. Miss Cross is tough and fiercely loyal to her mistress because she personifies order and loyalty. She provides the perfect foil to Madame Defarge, who epitomizes the violent chaos of the revolution.
There's also Gabelle, who is the man in charge with keeping up the Evermont estate after the Marquis' death. Gabelle is imprisoned by the revolutionaries. News of his internment prompts Darnay to travel to France to save him.
Plot summary.
Say it quickly.
Tale of Two. This is the plot summary of
You say it. It can't be read.
No, read it.
A Tale of Two Cities is about the event in Paris and London during the French Revolution. The story is about Charles Darnay, the self-exiled nephew of French nobility, and his wife, Lucy Manette, daughter of Dr. Alexander Manette. As the first of the book's 3 sections begin, Jarvis Lorry is one of his is on his way to Paris to meet up Dr. Manette with the daughter who thought he has been dead for the past 18 years. Over this time, Dr. Manette has forgotten his past life. He sits in a small attic room and makes shoes slowly. Jarvis and
Call him to life. The novel's second part starts 5 years later. Lucy Manette marries Charles Darnay, so she is now called Lucy Darnay. Darnay confessed the secret to Dr. Manette on the day before the wedding. The secret turns out that Darnay is really Charles Evermont, a member of the French ruling class. Darnay has renounced his past and wishes to settle in England. Meanwhile, unrest is growing in the Paris suburb of Saint Antoine. The center of this unrest is a wine shop owned by the Defarges, who are shown leading the storming of the Bastille.
the final section of the novel starts with Darnay on his way to Paris at the entreaty of a former servant who is in danger. Darnay is arrested and sentenced to die. The Manette and Florey hurry to Paris and succeed in freeing Darnay, but he is soon arrested again. He is sentenced to guillotine Sidney Carton, who looks a lot like Darnay, sneaks into the prison and switches places with Darnay. Carton is on his way to the guillotine, willing to die for the love of Lucy, while Darnay and Laurie flee to London.
They live happily ever after. Analysis from another writer. Perspective. The novel's opening statement, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times," sets the tone for a story in which a given circumstance is perceived as good or bad depending upon the point of view. Jerry Cruncher, for instance, considers his nocturnal occupation a viable source of income to provide for his hungry family, but Mr. Laurie views it as an apparent practice worthy of censure. Under scrutiny, Cruncher admits that the sights of the bloody revolution in Paris had convinced him that such an occupation is immoral, and he resolves to give up the practice. The revolution itself is believed to be an abomination by the exiled aristocrat that meet at Tellson's, whereas the peasantry, personified by the mender of roads and the wood sawyer, see it as an opportunity for empowerment and revenge. Most significantly, Dr. Manette's Bastille manuscript reveals that during his years in prison, the doctor believed that the whole Evermond clan should be destroyed, but when his daughter is wedded on Evermond, he is resolute in his determination to save him. The litany of wrongs suffered by the French peasants include the horrible execution of Gaspard serves sympathy for events such as the storming of the Bastille. After the revolution turns bloody, however, the reader's sympathies are transferred to the dual aristocrats awaiting execution.
Analysis from the students. The quote, "It was the best of times, it was the worst of times," truly has one's interest in the story. The novel's theme of light and dark is strongly present in this book. How Dickens shows the contrast between the completely different lives of people living in England and France, how different the lives of nobles and peasants are, how Carton and Darnay are technically opposites. I must also admit that at the beginning of the novel, I was kind of reluctant to continue reading the book. It was a bit boring at the start, but the way Dickens wrote the book will make you start to grow interest more and more as you read further and further into the book. And after a while, I totally got hooked in the story of the book. In the entries I have seen about Charles Dickens, I have seen that he is known to have quirky characters and stories in his books. And according to some entries, this is actually the most boring of all Dickens' works. In my opinion, the character Jerry Cruncher was the most entertaining thing I have read in this book.
Themes, symbols, motives, and images found in the novel. With Tale of Two Cities, Dickens asserts his belief in the possibility of resurrection and transformation, both on a personal level and on a societal level. The narrative suggests that Sidney Carton's death secures a new peaceful life for Lucy Manette, Charles Darnay, and even Carton himself. By delivering himself to the guillotine, Carton ascends to the plane of heroism, becoming a Christ-like figure whose death serves to save the lives of others. His own life thus gains meaning and value. Moreover, the final pages of the novel suggest that, like Christ, Carton will be resurrected. Carton is reborn in the hearts of those who has died to save. He has died. Similarly, the text implies that the death of the old regime in France prepares the way for the beautiful and renewed powers that Carton supposedly envisions from the guillotine. Although Carton spends most of the novel in a life of indolence and apathy, the supreme selflessness of his final act speaks to a human capacity for change. Although the novel dedicates much time to describing the atrocities committed both by the aristocracy and by the outraged peasants, it ultimately expresses the belief that this violence will give way to a new and better society. No, you don't.
such as light and dark.
I did that.
Light and dark. This is what I mostly thought of while reading this novel. From the states of the two cities, how the sense all of the characters were. Wait, again. This is what
I'll go with. Light and dark. This is what I mostly thought of while reading this novel. From the states of the two cities to how the characters were. Why must there be inequality? Well, in a sense, all of these bad things you see right now are because of us. We were all given free will by God. We all chose who we are right now. This is how Sidney Carton chose to die in place of Darnay. Some of our choices may bring benefits to some, but may bring pain and suffering to others. Greed, lies, treachery, darkness. All of these things, they all sum to one thing. Sin. Nothing more, nothing less. Smile face, extra chip. If I must say anything else, I must say that this novel was awesome. Face. I would recommend reading it. The boring stuff, and early anyways. Ha ha ha. Ha. Smile face. Do this part. This should be.
Movie film adaptation. A Tale of Two Cities. A 1911 silent film. Next one. A Tale of Two Cities. 1977 silent film. Next one. A Tale of Two Cities. A 1922 silent film. Next one.
The Only Way, a 1927 silent British film directed by Herbert Wilcox.
The next one. A Tale of Two Cities.
A 1935 black and white MGM film starring Ronald Colman, Elizabeth Allen, Reginald Owen, Basil Rathbone, and Edna May Oliver.
It was nominated for the Academy Awards for Best Picture. Next one. A Tale of Two Cities.
A 1958 version
Starring
Dorothy Tootin,
Christopher Lee, Leo
McCurd, and Donald Pleasance.
A Tale of Two Cities.
A 1980 version for TV starring Chris Sarandon, Peter Cushing, Alice something, and Rich Whitelaw. And he's black.
Sources.
Boom, sources. Don't mind what that was.
I love Kyle.
He's not.
Virus.
Wait.
Thanks.
Bagal. We're not even listening.